Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into some of the biggest, most mind-bending, existential mysteries of human existence. We're going to completely transform how we see our place in the universe, shifting away from a viewpoint of isolation and fear and moving toward one of profound, absolutely undeniable connection.
I mean, it's the big one, isn't it? What actually happens when we die? It's a question that really pulls at our hearts when we think about our own lives, our aging parents, or the loved ones we've already lost. Let's be honest, so many of us carry this deep-seated fear of separation, of nothingness, and of simply ceasing to exist the moment we reach the end of the line.
To tackle this, we're looking at a truly remarkable piece of work, The Art of Living, by the renowned Zen master and scholar Thich Nhat Hanh. What makes this text so incredibly special is how it uses these beautiful, natural metaphors to completely demystify complex, ancient Buddhist concepts, making them super practical for our everyday modern lives.
All right, Section 1, the illusion of separation and why emptiness does not mean nothingness.
So the very first step in overcoming our fear of death is totally dismantling this idea that we're just isolated, separate selves cut off from the rest of the world. To do this, we have to understand a concept called emptiness. Think about a beautiful flower. If you look really deeply into it, you'll see it's actually made entirely of quote-unquote non-flower elements. Soil, rain, sunshine, space, time, right? If you pull the sunshine and the rain out of the equation, the flower literally disappears. It's completely full of the cosmos, yet it is empty of a separate independent self. It just cannot exist by itself alone.
And you know what's really fascinating here? It's how perfectly this ancient spiritual insight matches up with modern science. The biologist Lewis Thomas pointed out that our human bodies are actually shared communities. Trillions of non-human cells live inside us. In fact, they outnumber our human cells. Without them, we couldn't even drum a finger or think a single thought. There are literally no solitary beings.
Moving right along to Section 2, the wonder of interbeing. To be is to interbe.
Since we're empty of a completely independent self, we actually need a brand new verb here, to interbe. Because we can't simply just be all by ourselves. To be is always to interbe. Sure, you contain the earth, water, and sunlight, but you also contain your ancestors, your education, your food, and your culture. You are this wonderful, incredibly complex manifestation of the entire cosmos coming together.
You can actually see this playing out vividly in everyday life. When you watch a child, you can easily spot their parents and grandparents in the way they look, act, and speak. They are a continuation. When that child walks and talks, their ancestors are walking and talking right along with them. We are never, ever acting entirely alone. But this interconnection isn't just happening across physical space. It's happening across time too, through impermanence. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus famously said you can never bathe in the same river twice because the water is always flowing. Well, the exact same thing is true for you. Your cells are constantly dying and being born. Your thoughts change by the second. You're basically an ever-flowing river of energy.
Now, this brings us to a pretty funny realization about how we usually view our own minds. René Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am," which kind of implies there's this separate boss inside us doing all the thinking. The source material gently pokes fun at this, noting that usually it's more like, "I think too much, therefore I am not there to live my life." The profound truth here is that there is no separate thinker behind the thought. The thinker actually is the thinking.
When we really, truly grasp this idea that there's no isolated self, it radically expands our empathy. The source shares this deeply moving story from the 1970s about a young girl who tragically perished at the hands of a sea pirate. By meditating on this concept of interbeing, the author realized that if he had been born into the pirate's deeply impoverished, violent conditions, he very well might have become the pirate himself. It's an intense insight, but it dissolves hatred and shows that suffering is fundamentally collective. We are all each other.
All right, Section 3. A cloud never dies, the reality of signlessness. To hit our fear of death head-on, we've got to talk about something called signlessness. It's the understanding that while appearances or signs change, nothing is truly lost. As the source shares from a poem called The Great Lion's Roar, a white cloud floats in the sky. The clouds are the floating. Think about that. You can't separate the cloud from the act of floating. Just like you can't separate a human being from their energy of action. We are the sum of our actions. Just picture yourself looking up at a cloud, and then a little later, it's gone. Did that cloud die? Well, no. Its true nature, H2O, just changed form. It became rain, which trickled into your local reservoir, went through your faucet, into your kettle, and literally became your cup of tea. The cloud is just playing an epic game of hide-and-seek. It hasn't died at all, it's simply transformed.
So we have to distinguish between two different levels of truth here. We've got our conventional truth, which relies on birth certificates and death dates. And sure, those are super useful for administrative paperwork. But the ultimate truth? That's the reality that we are in a state of continual energy transformation. Your actual birthday was really just a moment of continuation, because you already existed in your mother, your father, and the food they ate.
Next up, Section 4, Rethinking Reincarnation, Continuation Without a Self. You see, popular belief often pictures a permanent soul that sort of hops out of a dead body and flies into a new one, almost like changing out of a set of old clothes. But the deep teaching from the source states that we absolutely do not need a permanent, separate self for our actions and energy to continue. Karma and rebirth are happening all the time, but without some fixed soul packing its bags and doing the traveling.
Consider this amazing story about a 70-year-old English woman. She fully expected to go to heaven and meet her husband, who had tragically passed away at age 33. The author gently asked her, "How old will he be, and how old will you be?" Because it would be a bit strange for a 70-year-old to meet a 33-year-old. It's kind of a humorous question, but a really profound one that completely challenges our simple assumptions about a static afterlife.
So instead of reincarnation, a much better word for this is remanifestation. Just as that cloud remanifests as the rain we talked about, our energy remanifests in our children, our students, our work, and literally everyone our lives have ever touched. We are dying and being reborn in every single moment.
And that brings us to Section 5, the art of breathing, finding peace in the present.
So how on earth do we actually integrate all these profound insights into our daily lives without getting totally overwhelmed? Well, the source provides a remarkably simple yet incredibly powerful practice. And you don't need to force anything here. Just breathe in and know you are breathing in. Breathe out and consciously relax the muscles in your face and shoulders. It is a brilliant way to instantly restore stillness and bring your racing mind and your body into perfect harmony.
And while you're sitting in that stillness, you can try this absolutely beautiful visualization practice. Remember being sick as a kid and feeling the immense comfort of your mother or father placing their cool hand on your feverish forehead? Because you are a literal continuation of them, you can look at your own hand, bring it to your forehead, and physically feel your ancestors caring for you right in the present moment. They are always with you.
This really brings us to the ultimate message of the entire text. You know, when his students wanted to build a shrine, a stupa, for the author's ashes, he joked that he would need to put a sign on the front saying, "I am not in here." He insisted that his true continuation isn't sitting in an urn, it is in the peaceful breathing and walking of literally anyone who has learned from his teachings.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that you are so much more than just this physical body. You are a continuation. You are an ever-transforming energy. You are life without boundaries. And knowing that you're deeply and inextricably interconnected with the entire cosmos and that nothing is ever truly lost, how will you choose to live your life today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep breathing, and I will catch you next time.